Public hearing. It's a final area site plan review at 2600 Kinney Avenue. This is for Meadow Springs Condominium Phase 3. With that, Tricia, as the city planner, if you could introduce the project, please.
So, as Terry said, this is the final area site plan review for the third phase of Meadow Springs. And just an overview of the request and the property. The Planning Commission is being asked to review the final area site plan for units 45 through 67 in phase 3 of the Meadow Springs condominium development, and to grant approval with or without conditions, tabling or denial of the request. The parcel is located at 2600 Kinney Avenue Northwest. The total size of the parcel is 12.8 acres. The zoning is RPUD 1. And the future land use designation and community character designation is residential growth, 4 to 8 units per acre. And it's within the Northwest neighborhood cluster. So general location of this site is at Meadow Creek Drive on the east side of Kinney Avenue between 3 Mile Road and Remembrance Road. And we have with us tonight Zach Voogt and Dave Visser. So here's just the zoning and general location of the parcel, a portion of the parcel to be developed for phase 3. And then highlighted here is phase 3 of the overall PASP, which consists of 5 phases. So a little bit of background on this PASP. You all might remember when this came before you in years past. The Meadow Springs PASP and rezone to RPUD 1 was approved in 2014. And at that time, it was 103 units, even though my note here says 104 total units. But also at that time, 5 total phases. Phase 1 of the FASP, which is this area here, Meadowwoods Drive, was approved in 2016, and that was for the first 26 units. Phase 2 of the FASP was approved in 2019, which consisted of 18 units that you see in this area here. So just to give you a little summary of some previously approved changes to the plan and some proposed changes. I think it's important that the Planning Commission be aware that administrative approval was given for shifting units 32 through 39 east just a little bit. So unit 39 was permitted to be placed just slightly closer to the edge of the pavement in that private road. So as a result, in working with the developer, they requested to shift down units 34 through 39. I'm sorry, 32 through 37 to be able to make space for a different building footprint. And we wanted to ensure that there was at least 20 feet of separation between units. So we worked with them administratively. The ordinance allows the planning director to approve minor modifications to an FASP, and this was moving of a building closer to a private right-of-way versus a public right-of-way, which is indicated in the ordinance as needing approval from the Planning Commission. So additionally, they had a land swap with 2490 Kinney. The folks who reside at 2490 Kinney, the Carlsons, they have a driveway that's right up against the property line to the north for accessing their outbuilding. And so they deeded some land to the Carlsons so that they would be able to lawfully maintain their own property, because it's my understanding that they maintain that area anyway. And then the developer gained a small section to the south, well, to the east of where the creek is, between the creek and Unit 37, to be able to have a little bit more space there for landscaping. And so there's one proposed change here to this plan that the Planning Commission is probably going to want to have some discussion about, and that is the removal of a stub street at the end of Meadow Ridge Drive. And they added Unit 54 here. So just to give you an idea of what the original the approved PASP shows on the plan. So this was back in 2014, and all the previous plans up until now, or all the previous phases, I should say, showed this connection. So this is called out in a note on the plan on the approved PASP as a future connector road. And so the change that the developer is proposing now is to remove that connection or future connection, stub street, and replace it with an additional unit. So there's it's my understanding that there was some importance in having that connection there, in terms of being able to access the rear portion of the properties to the south if they were ever to be split and developed, but also for utilities. And so Travis has a little bit more information that he'll expand on in terms of that road connection. But it's something that the Planning Commission will have to decide if this is a sort of a deal breaker for tonight's approval. I am recommending approval, but you may have thoughts otherwise on how we should move forward with this. So a couple more specifics on Phase 3. This is for units 45 through 67. The units are all proposed as walkout, view out, and daylight basements, all single-family detached condominiums. We're asking that the applicant provide individual grading sheets during the building permit process so that we can ensure that the minimum building opening is consistent with the table in the approved grading plan. And an amendment to the master deed will need to be reviewed by the city attorney and recorded prior to the issuance of any building permits. The last phase, I think there was a changing of the guard when that phase was getting ready for building permits. And so the master deed was recorded, but it wasn't reviewed by our attorney. So we had to kind of like stop the truck for a minute, have that done, and then we were able to continue issuing building permits. But we want to make sure that that part gets done in the right order this time. We are asking that a separate sheet be submitted with a revised plan set that shows Phase 3 units and the setbacks from the PUD limits, and the separation distance and distance to the edge of the easement. The applicant did provide a sort of a little snapshot of your typical lot dimension, or not lot dimensions, but lot unit separation and distance to the edge of the easement and to the PUD limits. But I'd like to see that for each unit specifically. And we talked about that in the SPRC meeting. And then we also have some phase 2 obligations that still need to be met. But as you know, Kinney Avenue is torn apart right now, and so it's a little bit difficult for the developer to install the landscaping and the sidewalk along Kinney. So we've agreed to allow him to wait until that road project is complete, until we will require sidewalk and entry landscaping installation. But we would like to see that stuff done before any approvals are granted for the next phase of this project. So, subject to any new and compelling information discovered at the public hearing, staff recommends that the Planning Commission grant approval for the FASP for Phase 3 of the Meadow Springs condominium development located at 2600 Kinney Avenue Northwest, subject to the following conditions. So everything in the engineer's report needs to be adhered to. The sidewalks and landscaping along Kinney before any FASP approvals for Phase 4 of the development. The applicant shall revise sheet 2 of 9 to reflect the minor changes that occurred to Unit 39 as approved administratively by the planning director in November of 2020. We'll need individual grading sheets, as I mentioned. The applicant shall provide a draft of the master deed for review by the city attorney prior to recording. And a separate sheet should be included in the revised plan set that shows setbacks to the project limit, separation between units, and to the edge of private easement for each unit before we can issue any building permits for Phase 3. Also, the applicant shall provide a check in the amount of $1,000 to fund an escrow account for the costs incurred by the city for legal review of the master deed draft. And the applicant shall provide revision dates on the plan set and provide 4 sealed sets that incorporate all the conditions of approval prior to the issuance of any building permits for Phase 3.
All right, thank you, Tricia. At this point, commissioners, any comments or questions concerning the presentation? Okay. There being none at this point, we'll now turn to Assistant City Engineer Travis Marbury to provide the engineering review.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so I'm reviewing Scott's memo dated June 21st that's included in the packet here for Meadow Springs Phase 3. You'll see 4 bullet points, then I'll add a 5th one. None of them super major showstoppers, just more detail-oriented type stuff. The first comment was on sheet 3. We're asking for additional contour labels on the, I'm going to call it the additional flood storage area for the Nolan drain. So this is not the wet pond, but the area south of there where you see Nolan drain cuts through the field and then it's kind of flat through there. We just want to see those contours labeled, especially along the east side of Kinney there. And that'll just help us field verify that we got proper storage in that area. Bullet point number 2 talks about on sheet 4, there's some tight grading between 2 of the units, unit 23 and 45. Looks like it's going to be a really steep grade, might be a retaining wall that's right up next to an existing unit. So now is the time to adjust the grading on the plan so that you don't encounter any type of goofy construction out in the field. Point 3 here talks about on that same sheet, sheet 4, there's a bunch of minimum building openings. We just want the design engineer to verify that all those MBOs are safely above the 100-year flood elevation. I know when the first phase of this project came in, even before that, they have a 60 or 90-page drainage document for this area. So just want to verify that the MBOs are still adequate. Bullet number 4 talks about, as part of the various phases of this project have required the relocation of some Kent County Drain Commission drains. This Phase 3 requires a minor relocation of the O'Neill drain. So we just want to make sure that we have that as a stipulation, that gets worked out with the Drain Commission. I'm sure that's underway. And then the fifth bullet point, which is not on the sheet, which was kind of brought up today through some discussions, was this proposed unit 54, and whether or not they really want to construct that or leave that open for a stub street as was originally approved in the preliminary site plan. That's kind of the best location for a street or utility connection for future development to the south should that ever occur. So we just don't want to close the door on that if that's still on the table. That's it.
Thank you, Travis. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, Travis, so on that lot number 54, I know that does look like the best spot to connect, but is there anything that you see in like Phase 4 or Phase 5 that could do the same thing, that maybe we propose that when those phases come in, or is it still 54 is the best right now?
Yeah, so I don't think there's any real opportunities in Phase 5, just because just to the south of Phase 5, you've got that existing public street with a neighborhood. Phase 4, yeah, you can see where this Meadow Creek Drive kind of curves from the east to the north. There could be a connection there. This gets a little strange because these are private streets, and any development to the south would be presumably be also a private street, so that would require two different private developments to have a maintenance agreement between each other as to cross-access and such. But if you were going to have all that traffic from the south coming through here, you'd want to get them closer to Kinney because it's less houses are driving by in Meadow Springs, slower speeds, et cetera. And it just lines up nicely with the street to the north too there. So possibilities there for Phase 4, but just because it was included on the PASP, I mean, I know things change, so maybe the development to the south is no longer feasible, but if it still is kind of on the table, I think that lot 54 still makes sense to keep open.
Thanks.
In terms of reasons why there would be a street connection, but also just as importantly, utility connection is as far as looping within developments and between developments, that comes into play, does it not?
Yeah, they can. I mean, when we're looking at the water and sanitary connections, that could probably easily go into the Phase 4 location too, but you'd want it under the street in that same location. But yeah, any developments to the south would definitely need service lines, and then depending on the distances, there are like looping requirements for water main, so that could come into play.
Yeah, I think in this case, what's not shown on this aerial or this graphic right here is that to the south are 4 lots that extend from Kinney all the way back to the east line of this property, and the homes are on the front half of it, and so all 4 of them have empty area behind them. And I think back in 2014, that was part of the discussion, was to allow for that connection for traffic, but also for utilities, so that those properties, if they wanted to develop them in the future, there would be that opportunity.
It's a fairly large parcel to the south of that.
Correct.
There's 4 then also.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's where the pasture area for the farm is still located. So there's possibility, there's vacant land that would allow for new development in the future, and just continuing to make provision for that.
Does the owners to the south have any rights about this access or not, or do they get involved, or what? Do they have any right to that or not, or how's that work?
The property owners to the south, it's entirely up to them as to whether or not they want to sell their property. keep their property, develop it, not develop it. You know, I should note that we can't necessarily require that a road be connected here, but, and it was before my time, the original PASP that was approved showed that road connection there. And so I feel like there was some history with, making sure that connection was there for, like you said, both connectivity and utilities. But the property owners to the south are under no obligation whatsoever to sell, develop, or do anything with their properties.
Okay, at this point, an opportunity for the applicant to come forward and make a presentation on the project.
All right, there we go. All right, I'm Dave Visser. I just thought I would talk a little bit about the connection that we're all talking about here. So this project goes back, Terry, you know, way back to 2014. There was some interest back in the day through the Kinney family that they would want to maybe develop or do something with their property. We did submit a letter to you guys from the Carlson, who is the current south property owner, who have no interest at all with us in selling their property to make any kind of a connection. So Mark and Mary, who are the current property owners, have a very narrow 5-acre strip that goes back that connects our property and their property. And we've talked to them, and we were pretty clear with them, hey, we're coming to see you guys, we're gonna do this. You know, do you want a connection or do you not? And they do not want a connection. And that's the letter that you received, right, Trish?
I don't know if I received a letter from,
We emailed you correspondence from the Carlsons.
okay.
What? It was part of the submittal package, so that you guys would understand that's what we were, you know, because we didn't, you know, we didn't want to make it a hurdle, and we don't want to leave a connection that goes nowhere. And the bigger problem for the whole thing is, in our eyes, if you go to Don Bice Farm on the other side of the Kinney's property, which is the biggest 20 acres that's available for development, like you talked, Terry, that connects up to the Richview project, there is a connector there. There is water and sewer there. All them Kinneys that own those 4 properties and the Bice property could all be developed from that connection that is currently in place, ready to go. So there is no need for a connection on our piece, in my mind, when it all can be developed from the other end. And the Kinney family that owns on the north end by me has no interest in wanting to sell that piece. So for us to do that, the bigger piece, I guess, for us is being the condo development. We have no idea if we don't own it and it's not part of Meadow Springs Condominiums. You know, it's private roads. It's not a public road. We're not gonna, you know, I don't know how we could even put a public road up to that and let the public drive through the condo project and not be part of the condo project. So I don't even, you know, there's just no merit in that, in my opinion. Now, if you go to the Richview side, that's all public, platted subdivision, which could be continued and brought up. So I think on behalf of the Meadow Springs Condominium Association and myself, as the developer, I don't see our residents or us wanting any reason, you know, to make a connection there or have something other than Meadow Springs Condominiums in our development or part of it. And as of right now today, we have not been able to make a deal with the Carlsons to do any future development. That's why we proposed what we proposed. So I hopefully that better may understand what our thinking is, but I want you guys to fully know that property, if there's no connection there, it can fully be developed from the other end, from a public connection that is already there on a public connection, where ours is private. If you have anything else for me, I'd be happy to answer it.
Are you connecting phase 5 to the water main, the loop out that way? Or is the water main all going to be within inside this?
That's an engineering question, and
Phase 5 would not be looped. That's the only piece that wouldn't be looped in the whole circuit there.
Because you got the
5 would be a stub. I guess with the potential to loop it back in. We haven't got that far, Tom. We haven't got that far into phase 5, but,
So, I don't know all the city requirements for Grand Rapids for their water line. I don't know if they allow that long of a stub or not.
but so they reviewed our preliminary utility plan since day one and seen the overall preliminary plan that does not show phase 5 looped in.
Any other comments or
Yeah,
questions?
how many units have you built in the city of Walker, Dave?
Over my career,
How many? Yes.
I couldn't count them. To be honest with you, I've been working in the city for 35 years.
I mean, you can give us an estimate. I mean, you're arguing about one parcel. I just wondered what percent of the whole thing that is. You know, I mean, I don't know. Just a dumb old farm boy here. Go ahead and tell me.
I don't know, Joe, but it's not a matter of arguing over a unit. It's really about how the development lays out and what goes on that road and what's a connector. To have a blank spot of 60 feet with no building there just doesn't make any sense to do that. So it's really not about that for us. It's about making the development the way it should look, like the rest of it.
Okay. At this point, this is a public hearing. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Support.
Motion by Tyler, supported by Jason to open the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. This is an opportunity for you out in the audience. If you want to offer any comments or questions concerning this project, please step forward to the podium and give us your name and address and state your concerns or your comments. No takers?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Tyler, supported by Jason to close the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay. The project in hand, opportunity here to take action on the, consistent with the recommendation given by staff, or we've had some conversation about the, this particular, in this case, lot 54 that's proposed. Tom, any?
Well, I'm all about connectivity, but Dave has brought up some good points. With the proposed project being private and to connect to the south, public-private, that doesn't go very well. With private-private, there's a lot of hurdles to jump. So, yeah, I can't be nice, but I think there's way too many hurdles for it to ever happen.
Okay.
I've changed my mind after listening to Dave.
All right.
He laid it out pretty good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Joe?
Yeah, I think he's been here for 35 years. We know where his office is. We know where to get a hold of him if things don't go right, you know, so, yeah, I have no objection to that.
Yeah, I concur. I mean, Dave put it, he's tried, he's looked, I mean, the property to the south, it's not going to be developed anytime soon or anything, and it's a private development, so it makes all kinds of sense.
Ditto. I think Dave did a good job presenting it. I've dealt with him for 15 years now. I don't like developers, but I kind of like him, so.
Thanks, Tyler. From my standpoint, as far as connecting the private streets with the an adjacent development not yet devised, I can see where that question comes up. I guess on the utility end of it, It's my understanding that it's desirable, if that's ever going to develop, they have public utilities there. This is an opportunity to get it, and likewise, might get that opportunity from the south. But it's not just getting the access to it, it's the looping of it in order to have the water system and the sanitary sewer system operate at the optimal basis. And if that's going to take place, this would appear to be a good place to accomplish that, at least a utility connection to the south, to stub it there for future development. But that's my perspective on that. Jason?
Well, I think it's good to have that connection there, but I see Dave's point on that, where if somebody else were to develop to the south, they wouldn't necessarily want traffic going through there. And we've seen that before with a condominium development where they were really quite upset. And that was kind of a hurdle. So I can see why they would want to kind of squash that right now. You know, in the event that Dave picks up the lots to the south somewhere in the future, I think I would probably not build 54 if I'm in your shoes for a little while and make that the last possible one. But I would agree. There's, you know, it's his lot. He can do what he wants with it. And I understand the condo association too would not necessarily want increased traffic coming in there. It makes sense. I do like the utilities later down the road, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, I'm okay with lot 54 going in it. I think the compelling argument's been made, so I guess that's where I'm at.
I'm fine with lot 54 going in. It would be nice to see the utilities stubbed off there, though, if that can be worked out.
Oh, just a comment about the utilities. The parcels to the south can all be looped. There's enough acreage there to run the street in and back out. So sanitary sewer doesn't need to be looped. It just needs to go downhill at least to a pump station.
Okay. Good conversation. Are we at a point of someone ready to offer a motion?
Yeah, I can do that. For case 21-019, I will make a motion to approve the final area site plan set revision dated, do we have a date on this? 6/28/2021, and supporting application material for the third phase of Meadow Springs condominium development and related site improvements for the property located at 2600 Kinney Avenue Northwest, subject to the following conditions and based on the following findings. Conditions of site plan approval. The applicant shall address all the items outlined in the city engineer's report dated June 21st, 2021. The applicant shall revise sheet 2 of 9 to reflect the minor changes that occurred to unit 39 as approved administratively by the planning director in November of 2020. The applicant shall install entry landscaping at Kinney Avenue and Meadow Creek Drive following the completion of the Kinney Avenue construction project and before any final area site plan approvals can be obtained for phase 4 of the development. The applicant shall install sidewalks after the construction project on Kinney is complete and before any final area site plan approvals for phase 4 of the development. Individual grading plan template sheets that include a unit type, MBO elevation, driveway and building layout, easements adjacent to the unit, and commitments to sections 18-33 and 67-18 of the Walker City Code as a set for each unit prior to the issuance of any building permits for phase 3. The applicant shall provide a draft of the master deed amendment for review by the city attorney prior to recording. A recorded copy, as approved by the city attorney, shall be provided to the planning director prior to the issuance of any building permits for phase 3. The applicant shall provide a separate sheet that shows setbacks to the project area limits, separation between units, and to the edge of the private road easement for each unit prior to the issuance of any building permits for phase 3. The applicant shall provide revision dates on the plan set and provide 4 sealed sets that incorporate all conditions of approval prior to the issuance of any building permits for phase 3. The applicant shall provide a check in the amount of $1,000 to fund an escrow account for costs incurred by the city for legal review of the master deed draft. Findings of fact per section 94-213 and 94-215. The Meadow Springs PUD, as described by the final area site plan, does continue to meet the standards required by section 94-213. The final area site plan is in substantial compliance with the previously approved preliminary area site plan for Meadow Springs RPUD 1. Phase 3 of Meadow Springs will be designed, constructed, and maintained so as to be harmonious and appropriate in appearance with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity and shall not change the essential character of the area in which it is proposed. Phase 3 of Meadow Springs is adequately served by essential public facilities and services such as highways, streets, pedestrian ways, police and fire protection, drainage structures, refuse disposal, water and sewer facilities. Phase 3 of Meadow Springs will not create excessive additional requirements at public cost for public facilities and services.
We have a motion by Steve,
Support.
supported by Tyler. Any comments, questions? We don't have to follow roll call votes now because we're in person. So we can do this as a voice vote. All those in favor of approving the project as recommended, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Aye. And the reason is for that utility interconnection for the possible property development to the south. So the motion passes, and this goes to the City Commission.
This does not go to the city commission.
So this is it.
This is it.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You're all set.
All right.
All right, next case is case number 21-021. It's a site plan review, 2853 Northridge, 21,350 square foot industrial spec building with multiple tenants. Tricia, if you could, as...
Mr. Chair, I'm going to step up for this one.
Okay, thank you, Jason. And Tricia, if you could introduce this project, please.
Thanks, Terry. So the second to last lot in the Blanch industrial plat is being proposed for development at 2853 Northridge Drive Northwest. And this is a site plan review. The Planning Commission is being asked to review the site plan for 21,350 square foot industrial multi-tenant spec building and to grant approval with or without conditions, tabling, or denial of the request. The size of the lot is 2.68 acres. It's zoned ML, light industry. Future land use designation and community character designation is enterprise, and it's within the Northwest neighborhood. And this lot is at the southwest corner of Peach Ridge Drive and Northridge Drive intersection. And we have Chad Mencarelli of Land and Resource Engineering here on behalf of the owner, Blanch Industrial Park LLC, which I'm sure there are some actual people behind that who might also be attending tonight, not sure. So just a little bit of background here for this small development. This is a platted industrial park. We don't see platted non-residential developments all that often, but there are some, and this is one of them. So we're looking at lot 1, which is right here, highlighted in yellow. And this particular plat was established back in 1999, and it consists of a total of 11 lots. And as I said before, 1 and 4 are the last remaining lots to be developed in this little plat. So here's an image of the site plan, and proposed improvements for the site include, as I said, the 21,350 square foot building. We also are seeing 2 loading spaces here. They've got some exterior lighting proposed, landscaping, sidewalks. They're showing sidewalks all along this stretch here, and even the infamous sidewalk to nowhere along Peach Ridge, which we've asked them to add. They're also proposing 31 parking spaces. And there will be 3 occupant spaces within the building, and each will have associated office space. And they are also proposing stormwater management facilities. So this is the zoning and general location of the area. You've got agricultural up here, light industrial here, heavy industry here. This project is pretty straightforward, and the applicant has addressed pretty much all of our concerns in the revised plans. The only one thing that we have hanging out there still is this drainage easement. So it's a platted drainage easement. Kent County Drain Commission has jurisdiction over stormwater facilities in Plats. And so this drainage easement that is highlighted here in blue has a retaining wall proposed within it. Stormwater is proposed to be directed outside of the easement using storm sewer. And so there really isn't any real use for this particular easement. But since it's platted, it's not just as simple as saying, oh, well, you can go to the Zoning Board of Appeals to ask for a variance from the zoning provision that doesn't allow things like a retaining wall in a drainage easement. And it's also not as simple as having the Drain Commission grant an encroachment easement so that they can put a structure in that easement. Because we all know that platting makes it more complex for everyone. But there are some options. The design of the plan, the way it's proposed, if the plan is to keep that retaining wall there in that easement, the applicant will have to pursue one of the options that was suggested by the city attorney. I included the attorney's opinion in your packet, which laid out a couple of different options. They're all from the Land Division Act. So it's either redesigning the site to place the retaining wall somewhere else on the site. That's an option. And the other option is to have a replat through circuit court, which is very expensive and nobody ever really wants to do that. But then the statute also provides another option for the local unit of government to pass a resolution to abandon their interest in the easement. And the applicant would have to get all of the signatures from the other property owners within the plat as part of that, and an agreement would have to be recorded with the county. So that's probably the path of least resistance if the retaining wall is to stay in that easement. So we've had some talks with folks from the Drain Commission, city attorney, the applicant's engineer, and staff is still in support of the site plan being approved as proposed, but as a condition of approval, we have to get this issue resolved with the retaining wall. So the recommendation here is that the Planning Commission grant the approval of the site plan for the new 21,350 square foot multi-tenant industrial building per the plan set, last revision dated June 15, 2021, located at 2853 Northridge Drive, Northwest, subject to the following conditions. The applicant shall address all the items outlined in the city engineer's report dated June 21, 2021. And any changes to the approved landscaping plan proposed Following planning commission approval shall be reviewed and approved by staff. This is just a thing I like to have in here if any changes are proposed, that the planning commission allows the applicant to work with staff, but no changes are proposed at this time. And the landscaping plan is acceptable. The applicant must submit an escrow check in the amount of $1,000 if he chooses to proceed with the option for easement abandonment through a resolution made by the city commission. And the applicant shall provide 3 sets of sealed plans reflecting the site redesign to remove or relocate the retaining wall or abandonment of the easement prior to the issuance of any building permits.
Okay, thank you, Tricia. Any comments or questions for Tricia? All right, we'll switch to Travis, providing the engineer's report, please.
Sure, I'll be reviewing Scott's memo dated June 21st, 2021. In the packet, it's got 3 bullet points on them. One of them's already been discussed at length. I'll get to that. The first one's super simple. We just want a site address added to the plan. That helps out a lot in the future. Maybe it's on there, I couldn't find it anywhere. But if we just get address on the plan, that's bullet point number 1. Bullet point number 2, Tricia talked a lot about, it was the retaining wall issue. And sounds like there's kind of 2 main solutions: move the retaining wall outside of the easement, or follow the city attorney's recommendations for cleaning this up legally. And so we second that. And then the third bullet point is a little nuanced. So when you go out and visit the site, if you go to the very north side of the site, you'll notice that there's a little 6-inch drain. It's shown on the plans, and you can find it up there up in the wood line. And then that outlets into this big 25-foot wide drainage easement. It's total overkill for it. So I understand what's going on here. But what is currently being shown on the plans is that they catch the water from the north from that 6-inch pipe and the other water that's sheet flowing. They catch it in a little catch basin on the north side of that retaining wall, and then a pipe pokes through the retaining wall, and then it spills out into the dumpster area like about 2-3 feet above the ground. So it's like a perched outlet. We don't like to see that. We like to see storm sewer connected. So that's what the third bullet point is talking to. We don't want to see a perched outlet, especially near a dumpster area. So we'd like to see that storm sewer connected directly to the storm sewer system right under the retaining wall there.
Questions? Okay, we're dealing with the existing zoning on the property to the north. If that should ever change for a non-residential use, then that easement might have more significance, would it not?
Oh, yeah, I mean, you could obviously direct more water through there, but right now, I got a little bit off on a tangent there. The main point is that we just don't want the perched outlet in the dumpster area. We just like to see that connected straight through.
Okay. All right, this is not a public hearing, but first, let's have the applicant come forward. And if you could give us your name and title and push it again. There you go.
Sorry. So my name is Chad Mencarelli. I work at Land and Resource Engineering, and I'm representing the applicant in this site plan review proceeding. So I guess just to speak, and I think Tricia and I have kind of talked at length about this easement. We've also been in kind of a lot of talks with the engineer from Kent County Drain Commission. I think we have a path moving forward, and that will also address the storm sewer issue that was in the engineering memo. So late last week, and I think Tricia, you were on this email from Joel, where he actually requested that we actually just wrap that storm sewer around from the north. So pick up that 6-inch storm sewer and just kind of squeeze it over onto the other parcel. Tim Blanch actually owns both parcels, so I don't anticipate a huge issue with getting an easement, and that was also what the drain office discussed too, is potentially just moving that easement or abandoning the one on the Plat and then getting an additional easement going down on the other property. So I will say the storm sewer right now on our site is designed to handle the flows from the north.
However, the drain office doesn't want to have those flows going through a private system, so to speak. So that's kind of why they're requesting us to kind of go around the wall to kind of take care of that. So we would like to put the wall kind of shown as is. We don't really want to move it at this point, but if it does become a huge headache for us, we would, potentially consider doing that. That wall is kind of squeezed back, kind of up against the property line in order to allow for the turning radius for a truck coming into there. But like I said, we prefer to keep it this way really prefer to keep it this way, but that'll be something for the owner to decide if it starts to become a huge headache. So with that, I don't think I have anything else to add to what Tricia had stated. So yeah, I'm waiting, and I guess the drain office is consulting their own counsel on that easement and the appropriate abandonment procedure for that, as they're under their jurisdiction. So I think we're still waiting to hear back from that. They'll obviously keep us all in the loop, me, Tricia, and the drain office. So, but yeah, I don't have anything else. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
I went out there today, and there's one, it's hard to know where Peach Ridge is. I look at the map, and I think where's the intersection here, but there isn't any. It's just a boundary line, I guess. And where is that big red stake out there with a flag on it? Where is that on your map there?
I guess I'm not sure what big red stake you're referring to. Is it right? Is it at the intersection that you saw it, or what?
I wasn't sure. It was the only stake that I saw that
Is it
looked
a wood
significant.
stake with some ribbon on it, or is it just a big red stake?
No, it had a flag, kind of a red flag or orange flag on it.
Okay.
It's the only thing that really stood out to give me an idea where it was.
I guess I'm not aware. I haven't actually been to the site for a month or two, so if it got placed there within that time, I'm not aware of that.
But it is a pretty decent side of a hill there, though, isn't it? You don't notice that until you go out and look at it.
Well, yeah, that's the thing too. It's kind of you don't realize, even when you're out there, it doesn't seem like it goes up that far in the back, but it does. There is quite a bit of grade change across the whole site, hence the reason for the retaining wall. So
did I understand that the Drain Commission is considering moving the easement over onto the other lot?
yeah, so that was kind of a conversation that we had late last week, because I think Cliff, the city attorney, had gotten back with Tricia sometime last week. So myself and the developer and even the drain office was kind of always under the interpretation that we could handle this with a simple encroachment agreement. So we've been kind of taking their lead on that, and then the city looked into it a little bit more, and it's a little bit more of a process, but doable. So, but yes, they are willing to.
So that was not, this is a verbal that this might happen, not in writing that we've got.
Well, I do have an email from Joel that Tricia was CC'd on it, where he discussed, moving the easement, but there's no, like with Tim Blanch or anything like that, there's no quote unquote written agreement that it would happen. But if it's a condition of approval, I would guess that we'd do whatever we need to do to make it work. So.
Have you thought about raising the floor elevation of the building?
So.
Driveway a little steeper?
Yeah, so with the trucks coming in there, we want to make sure that we don't have too steep a drive. I think right now it's right around 3 to 4%. So, and then it kind of goes up into this flat area. So the landing gear on the trailer, there was a concern that might scrape as you kind of go over that bump and it flattens out. But yeah, we did consider that to kind of reduce the size of that, or reduce the height of that wall. So.
One tenant in the building or two tenants?
So there's 3 tenants in the building. 2 of them, I believe there's 2 leases on it. The developer would be able to tell you more about that, but yeah, three tenants. The loading dock in that area is kind of its own
unit, and then there's a unit to the north, and then obviously a unit to the south.
So you, well, when you say your loading dock is its own, just gotta get to that elevation. It's not an ideal site for a building its own.
Okay,
I'm
Tyler,
not even gonna bring up the truck turning templates because I wouldn't want to necessarily back a truck in there. Did Scott have them run the turning templates? Travis, do you know?
I can't speak for sure on that, but he always does on these sites, so I'd be shocked if he didn't talk about it at site plan review or ask the design engineer about it.
I was gonna comment that the wall is in the easement and they have to get it taken care of. That's their problem. They have to solve it. We don't have to solve it here. They just have to solve it. So to sit and beat a dead horse about a wall in an easement, they can't do it unless they solve it, so.
I would agree. I think there might be a little early to come here with that.
got a couple people in the audience. Do you have any comments or questions concerning this? It's not a public hearing, but if you want to come forward and state your name and address and share your concerns.
Good evening. Brian Sneller. So my property is directly to the north of this piece. And I had a handful of concerns or just questions, and one of them was about my drain culvert running south out of my property. And that's pretty much your main thing we've been talking about. And you call it just a 6-inch drain, but a lot of water moves through that. And we can't have that backing up. That's going to change, my property, adjoining properties. So I guess I was kind of looking at the blueprint there, and I don't see exactly how close this is all actually to the property line either. And like, what type of wall are we talking about? I guess I've got some concerns about water.
Okay. And, yeah, if you could respond to that as the civil.
So yeah, like I said, number one, yeah, I'm not gonna debate how much water goes through. I can guess that a significant amount would go through there, but we did design our internal system to be able to handle that. And like I said, the drain office they're not just allowing us to basically abandon that easement and it goes away forever. They do want us to do something, either on the adjacent property or kind of relocate the wall. I don't think there's anything in my mind that we're doing to cut off drainage to that parcel. The top of wall elevation is quite a bit lower. The wall is going to end up being a poured concrete wall that's being designed by, or it was designed by the developer. I actually have those prints with me. So I believe it's an 8-inch concrete poured wall with reinforcement in it, but I'll double check that.
How tall would that be?
So it's a 7-foot max, and then it's going to be graded up from the top of the wall. The earth is going to be reinforced with a geocell, and then it's just going to be seeded with like a dry land mix there. So.
Okay, we've got another gentleman to the back. Do you want to approach the podium as well?
Oh, I'm sorry, move my stuff out of your way.
Hello. Thank you. I'm Mark Green. I live at 3215 Peach Ridge, and I'm just to the north of Mr. Sneller. And the water that we're talking about is the water that is in my backyard. I own 3 acres back there, and the back acre is it's basically it's pretty swampy. That's where the water sits, and you look around that, it's a bowl, and it sits there very precariously. Really, I would never do anything to alter it. I have no reason to, but if a person wanted to go up there with a shovel within an hour, they could really send some water down through there, just to give you an idea of what's up there. That water, my wetland back there has already been damaged from earlier stages in this development where they cut the hill down, which prevented water from filling up our little wildlife center there. This happened 25 years ago. So now we don't even get the water we used to, although it's still a lot. And I'd hate to see, that one kind of caught me sleeping there, or I would have been in here asking about that. But I'd hate to see anything happen at the other end now. Just to give you a little better idea what you're dealing with there, you know, a lot of water.
Okay.
At times. Thank you.
Maybe Travis wants to address this, but this developer can't do anything that would change the water coming off your properties. They can't push it back on. They can't do anything. They have to leave it exactly the same or make it better. So that's against the law to push water onto somebody else's property. So it shouldn't be a big deal if they leave everything, that drainage the way the same, and just connect it to a storm drain. So.
Yeah, you have a lot of oversight on this right now. Like the design engineer said, this drainage easement is under the jurisdiction of the Drain Commission. So they know what size this drain needs to be. Just, you know, and then you also have our city engineering department looking out for the interests of the residents too in this situation. A 25-foot wide open channel can carry a lot of water. And it sounds like the Drain Commission's talking about there's a legal process for abandoning the existing easement, but the Drain Commission sounds like they want to have a new easement carried over on the property to the east. Therefore, we're not trying to channel all this water into this private drainage system, which is a great answer. So from what I'm hearing, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like the Drain Commission's suggesting that this 6-inch pipe is going to be continued on just like it does, just a little further to the east, and then it's going to spill over land into a new easement to the land to the east.
So the minimum size that you can put in per Kent County Drain Commission rules is 12-inch, so we'd be putting in a 12-inch pipe. But like I said, there was an email that Joel Morgan sent out last week where he outlined very specifically the importance of that easement that would not cut off flow or whatnot from the adjoining
So
property.
you're talking about connecting a 12-inch pipe to the existing 6-inch pipe,
Right,
so that's
yeah.
not going to dam anything up. That's going to allow even more water
Right.
than could make it go through. And I'm assuming at some point it's going to go overland.
Right, it's going to go around the wall and then it's going to come out and basically daylight and flow over land.
I personally don't have any concerns about the drainage situation. It's more of an exercise in making sure that this platted easement is abandoned properly and the new one is set up properly. As far as the actual inner workings of the storm sewer, I think there's plenty of oversight on that.
And
occurring.
like I said, we have to get approval from the Kent County Drain Commission to proceed anyway, so we're not gonna be able to get approval without making sure that that easement is squared away. We're not gonna be able to get final, building permits without that, so, not really trying to, cut off drainage or anything. Obviously, we understand it's there for a reason, so.
I think at this point, we've got a model motion on point number 4. It may be a matter of adding a third option. You've got retaining wall or abandonment of the easement or relocation of the easement. And that would perhaps capture what's being discussed with the Drain Commission office. And it's still, with those 3 options, there's 3 ways to address it. And it would give the applicant and the city some latitude to work through to assure that the water, as it drains off the properties from the north, continues to go and it doesn't get dammed up and cause problem for those that are north again.
Sounds good.
Doesn't look like it's gonna get dammed up. 25-foot difference in elevation.
It's going to move.
Slow down here.
Any other conversation concerning this?
Terry, are you saying that for condition number 4, we should add the language of relocating the easement?
Correct.
Okay.
Or was it a revision to number 3? Just adding it into number 3?
No, it was a third point on number 4.
Do I have?
Relocating the retaining wall.
Just the one that was attached to your-
Abandonment of the easement or relocating of.
Abandonment or relocating the easement on number 4.
Oh, I have a different, I have the one that came with the packet, and that's number 3.
I can make this
Oh.
motion because it's short.
Anyway,
Any other comments? Are ready to take a motion? Okay, we have someone,
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan set blah, blah, blah. If we get a second, I'll read it.
I second it.
Okay, make a motion to approve site plan set revision dated 6/15/21, supporting application material for a 21,350 square foot industrial building with 3 tenant suites and associated office spaces and related site improvements for the property located at 2853 Northridge Drive Northwest, subject to the following conditions. 1, applicant shall address all of the items outlined in the city engineer's report dated June 21, 2021. 2, any changes to the approved landscaping plan following PC approval shall be reviewed and approved by staff. 3, the applicant must submit an escrow check in the amount of $1,000. If he chooses to proceed with the option for easement, abandonment, or relocation made through a resolution made by the city commission. 4, the applicant shall provide 3 sets of sealed plans reflecting the site redesign to remove or relocate the retaining wall, comma, abandonment of the easement, comma, or relocating the easement prior to the issuance of building plans.
so we've got a motion by Tom, supported by Joe. Any questions about it? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Gentlemen, I would suggest that as you have questions about this, either talk to Travis or Scott Connors in the city engineer's office, and they'd be able to perhaps answer any more detailed questions you may have.
That's a great suggestion. Our contact information's on the city website, department's engineering. Scott Connors is a city engineer. He's a little more familiar with these plan set than I am. I'm just filling in for him today. But we can keep you in the loop as the Drain Commission addresses this issue and help try to answer any concerns you have. So feel free to reach out to us, please. Yep.
Okay, that's the end of our agenda. Anything else, Tricia, as far as upcoming?
We are prepared to have the Waterford Village revised plan on the 21st of July on the agenda. And we also have another lot within the Northridge East PUD on that agenda as well. And then we have just a renewal or an extension of a site plan review from a Target facade from a couple years ago.
Mr. Chair, I will not be here on that meeting, and I decided not to Zoom in. I'm on vacation.
Okay.
We actually will not have a Zoom option for that meeting.
Great.
We're all done with Zoom.
You gonna have enough room in here?
Hopefully.
I mean, that Waterford could fill this room.
Savannah at Walker is the new name, right?
I think the development as a whole is called Waterford Village, but then the multifamily portion is called Savannah at Walker. But yeah, it's very,
I just call it Lincoln Lawns.
yeah.
Is that a public hearing again?
Yes, that's a public hearing.
Now, the scope of the review for the planning commission that night will be what?
Same thing as before. It's PASP approval or denial or tabling, and recommendation to the city commission for the rezone.
Okay, all right.
We passed that, what was only one person abstained on that, is that right? Am I, got that right, those numbers when we voted on that?
I think I don't know if anybody abstained. Steve
Steve
was
voted again.
opposed.
Yeah, I voted no.
The rest of us voted for it, okay, okay, thank you.
And that was on the rezoning recommendation. So you guys didn't make any, you didn't take any action on the PASP. So this new plan, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it, but it's out there, it's on our website, or it's in the iCompass Document Center, which I don't know if you are familiar. While I have this thing up, raise your hand if you use this site. Good. I know, I just felt like a teacher again. So up here at the very top of this site, you have the document center, and in the public hearing notice, which you wouldn't have gotten unless you're Pat, I think. I don't think anybody else is within 300 feet of the property. But the public hearing notice gives a URL to click on or to navigate to. And so I've got a folder in here called Public Notices and Projects. And in 2021, and it's under Waterford Village, 721 Planning Commission meeting, and these are the plans. So if you wanted to, you can get a early look at these. I'm expecting a set of revised plans, which I'll get up there as soon as I get them. But this is just the first submittal.
So did they have another meeting with the neighbors?
No.
So we're gonna potentially go through the same thing again, all the neighbors that are against everything,
Quite possibly.
right, Pat?
I hear them all day.
The new plan shows about 12 lots or so along Lincoln Lawns, having frontage on Lincoln Lawns, and also a connection to Maple Row. So that might be something that people might come and voice their concerns with.
Well, I'll be gone, but my opinion has always been that Maple Row should connect, so that's just my opinion. I know there's a wonderful tree there, but
Make a canoe lot.
a big one.
I had the road split, laying around each side.
Good one.
Oh, boy.
It's something unique, it'd be the entry point to this thing.
That is true, but I don't know what the hell, what easement width and everything works on that, so.
They make guardrail and you can circle it out.
Oh.
And I know that we're missing Scott tonight, but I've been meaning to ask you guys what your take is on receiving paper packets in the future.
I like to get them in the mail.
You like to get them in the mail? Is there anybody else who likes to or prefers to get them in the mail every time? So Terry and Joe.
Two young guys.
I'll take the half the postage in my check too. Yeah. So I'll save the city some money, I'll take it.
Yeah.
$10 in mailing.
Out of your $45
One
that
thing
you
that
get?
helps me, Tricia, is when you send the invite for the meeting though.
Okay.
'Cause then it goes on my calendar.
Okay.
Way in advance, that helps me.
Okay.
Yeah, I look at it all online and pull it up.
Yeah, I do too.
Is there an option
You
for
can give me a laptop
8
for
or
this
by
planning
11 by
commission so that I can
17
use that
for
when I
the
come
plan
in.
sheets?
Yeah.
I mean, instead of sending out full sets?
Yep, absolutely.
I don't know what the rest of you think about that, but 11 by 17 or,
That's plenty big for me. Like I said, I do most of mine online anyway, so.
well, I do too, but like tonight, it was handy.
It would be handy to have 11.
a paper
Yeah.
copy here. You know, not necessarily, I mean, the mailman is now dropping this off at the door. You can't get it in the mailbox, and I don't have a little mailbox. I mean,
Yeah.
You can't get it in the mailbox, you're right.
Would any of you be opposed to picking up a paper packet if you choose to have a paper packet?
If you told us when we could get it. yes,
Okay.
that'd be-
You could come pick it up?
Friday before, she usually has.
Would that be okay for you, Terry?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
If we do when, yes.
Friday before, Joe.
Always a Friday before, okay, I didn't know that, okay.
Thursday. We try to get it out on Thursday. So, okay, well, we can test this out. Maybe not with this next meeting. Maybe you guys all want hard copies for this upcoming meeting, but they are pretty, it is pretty big, so I might have you guys all just pick them up.
Oh, yeah, have the option. I mean, I like the online.
Okay,
If I remember to that meeting, I'll bring my laptop here and I'll just zoom in right here instead of.
okay.
In fact, forget any comment I had other than I don't want paper copies. Because I can bring my laptop here and zoom it up and flip page to page, and that's fine, good. I hate to, you know, what am I gonna do with this tonight? Gonna put it in my basket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't even open them up.
Yeah, I didn't open mine up this time.
Yeah, so we'll try out, you just let me know if you want to pick it up and I'll get it ready for you.
Okay.
You know, another good thing is you could have a drone go by the site and then take a video of it so we can just watch the video.
Maybe we'll do that
Yeah,
in a couple
get on that,
years.
would
Especially we can see all the contours
All right.
and everything instead of. just
Scott's not here.
all the way backwards.
Yeah, Scott's not here. He typically likes to have a paper copy.
Well, I mean, he usually says about this time,
Oh,
motion to close the
Oh, Scott's
meeting.
not.
right.
Oh, we're visiting. We haven't had a chance to visit as a group in ages.
Yes, so moved, yes.
You're the
Motion to close there.
All right. All in favor? Yes, bye.